So, picture this. A massive global crisis has just shaken the world. How on earth do you steer an entire continent's economy back from the brink? Well, in the years after 2008, that was the trillion-euro question facing leaders all across Europe. They knew they needed a brand new playbook for a world that felt incredibly uncertain. So, what was in it? Let's dive in and break it down.
This quote from the 2015 European Economic Congress just nails the mood at the time. You know, the immediate blaze of the financial crisis might have been put out, but the smoke was still hanging thick in the air. There was this very real, almost tangible fear that Europe was just stuck, that it was about to slip into a lost decade, haunted by this ghost of stagnation.
So what do you do when all the old maps are basically useless? Well, you get the best navigators you can find into one room. These high-level forums weren't just your typical conferences. They were like pressure cookers. They brought together the sharpest minds in business, finance, and government to try and draft that new playbook page by page.
Okay, but before you can write a new playbook, you have to agree on what game you're even playing. So the first step was to name the challenges. What were the core problems that were keeping European leaders up at night? Turns out the list was pretty long, and everything was deeply connected.
I mean, they were fighting a battle on multiple fronts. On the economic side, you had that fear of stagnation, plus brutally high unemployment. This hit young people the hardest, creating this idea of a lost generation. Then politically, the EU was dealing with its own internal squabbles. And, as if that wasn't enough, you had growing instability just outside Europe's borders, adding a whole new layer of risk. That was the grim reality they had to face.
So with all those challenges on the table, how do you get a stalled engine to restart? Well, the first big idea, the first major strategy, was a massive, coordinated push right from the top. A huge financial stimulus designed to basically shock the system back to life.
And let me tell you, they were not thinking small. The European Union put forward this massive investment program. We're talking 300 billion euros. The sheer size of that number was part of the point. It was meant to be this powerful signal, an antidote to all the pessimism, saying, hey, we are serious and we are going to invest our way out of this.
And this wasn't just about throwing money at problems to patch up holes. The plan was much smarter. It was about building something new, something more resilient. The money was aimed at key areas, breaking that cycle of stagnation for sure, but also modernizing entire industries, pouring gas on the fire of new tech, upgrading critical infrastructure, and, most importantly, getting people back into stronger, future-proof jobs.
But here's the thing. While governments were planning this huge top-down push, another revolution was already happening, bubbling up from the ground. And that brings us to the second key piece of the playbook, adapting to the wild, relentless disruption of technology. It was literally rewriting all the rules of business.
The change was just fundamental. I mean, it used to be so simple, right? A car company competed with other car companies. But in this new reality, suddenly they were competing with tech giants building self-driving software. A bank wasn't just up against other banks anymore. It was competing with these slick little fintech startups. The lines were blurring everywhere, and major new competitors were popping up from places you'd never expect.
To survive, let alone thrive, in this new world, you needed a new model. They called it Business 4.0, and it was all about a radical shift to being data-driven. So think of a factory using AI to predict when a machine is going to break before it actually happens, saving millions. Or a store using big data to create personalized offers for you in real time. The companies that could master these tools weren't just going to survive, they were going to lead.
But look, a giant pile of money and fancy new technology, they're just tools. To really make them work, the playbook needed a third, absolutely crucial ingredient, the human element. Specifically, a totally new kind of leader. Because it was clear the old way of managing just wasn't going to cut it anymore.
This was the big question everyone was debating. In a world where information moves at the speed of light and old hierarchies are crumbling, could that traditional, top-down, command-and-control style of manager really be effective? The answer that kept coming back was a loud, clear no.
I absolutely love this quote from the SEG Congress. It's so powerful. They didn't just want managers anymore, they wanted heretics. How great is that? They wanted people who weren't afraid to stand up and question the way we've always done things around here. People who could inspire real change from the inside, not just bark orders from the top. The new hero was the innovator, the person with the courage to shake things up. So we've got a new plan for investment, a new approach to technology, and a new vision for leadership. There was just one final piece to the puzzle.
With your home market kind of stuck in the mud, the fourth chapter of the playbook was all about looking outward. The consensus was clear: Europe's future growth had to be global.
But going global? Yeah, that's not as easy as it sounds. It's incredibly complex. Trying to expand into a dynamic market like India, for instance, meant you had to navigate deep cultural differences and a maze of local laws. Over in the diverse markets of Africa, the challenges were totally different. Maybe it was about finding enough skilled workers or dealing with tricky infrastructure. Every single new market was its own unique puzzle.
This really called for a complete change in thinking. The old model was you grow in your city, then your country, and then maybe, just maybe, you start exporting. The new goal was to flip that on its head. The idea was to create global startups, companies that were built from day one with the DNA to operate across any border, culture, or market. They saw the entire world as their home turf, right from the get-go.
So, there you have it. The 4 core pillars of Europe's playbook for getting through that crisis. A huge financial kickstart from the top, a rapid sink-or-swim adaptation to new technology, a call for brave, disruptive leaders for heretics, and a strategic push into new global markets. It was a really comprehensive, multi-layered plan for a very, very uncertain time.
And that really brings us to the big question for today, doesn't it? This playbook was created in the fires of one specific crisis. But as we all face our own unique set of challenges now, from AI to massive geopolitical shifts, how much of it still holds up? Are these the same tools we need today, or is it maybe time to start writing a whole new playbook?